Hey guys, what's up? Got the Knox County chair of the Democratic Party stopping in. Matt Shears, we've had him on before. We've had him a couple times. I like Matt, much like I like Randy, who is no longer the chair of the Republican Party here in town, and we'll talk about that. Got some other subjects to talk about, like what it means to sweep a room, as well as start talking city races. I'm sure we'll talk baseball because we always talk baseball. And all the other fun, cool, and exciting things that are going on in the world of Knoxville politics and those involved. So we're almost in agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Get us a little love. Get us to help grow us a larger audience. And what was the last thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah. The website's live. Almostinagreement.com is live. Check it out. All episodes are available there, as well as most major podcast providers. We're almost in agreement, and Matt Shears is with me, everybody. Here we go. Like I said, Matt Shears, everybody, in the house. He has a new arch nemesis.
Glad to be here.
And I have a new customer, I guess. I won the bet.
A new opponent, not nemesis.
All right, well, we found Matt's weakness, everybody. The word nemesis. That was an interesting day that I had to have today.
Yeah. So you went to the GOP convention, right? Can you tell us about that?
I mean, yeah, I was. I don't know. I'm trying to put it in a linear thought pattern. I don't know. The first time I've been to anything like that for either party, so I don't know. I have no idea what I was expecting it to be. I think that I want to say they had 400, somewhere in the mid to upper 400s in voting participants there. All right, so all right. I'm trying to think if this was intentional or not. So, and maybe you can give me the skinny on how the Democratic Party does similar events. So, I get it. You got to be bona fide Republican to vote. You can't just walk in there off the street and go in and start voting for things like whatever. And so, they had a line, and everybody was in line, getting registered, getting whatever the bona fides lined up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I walk in knowing I'm not bona fide and have no intent to vote. And so somebody's like, "Hey, did you pre-register?" I was like, "No. My name's Seth. I host this podcast, and I've had Randy on as well as a number of candidates, and Randy invited me to come and just check out the show." And they're like, "Okay, cool." And so I'm walking around and talking to people, and I've had Eddie Manis on the show twice, but I haven't actually got to meet him in the flesh. So I got to meet him in person.
Nice.
I saw Kyle and Biggs and Eric Wader and Becky Massey was there. Burchett was there. And so it was a handful of people that I've done interviews with, but actually haven't met in person, which was nice. And met a couple of the candidates that are going to run for some city council seats this year. And so that was kind of cool. I've got a couple of cards for some people to email for some new interviews.
Really? Who did you talk to?
Dan Davis, who I actually have known for 15 years. And a gentleman, Garrett Holt, I believe is his name. He is running for District 6, I think. They had four total guys that were there that were running for city council in the nonpartisan, but they still.
Who was the other Davis?
Yeah, Dan Davis.
What is he running for?
District 4, and there's another guy running for District 4 or that was interested in District 4 as well, or that expressed his intent. There were 4 guys there that all expressed intent to run for city council.
Gotcha. All right.
And I don't recall the 4th. I have notes, but I haven't gotten to go back through them as far as some of the specifics. But so I'm just kind of wandering around talking to people, just trying to introduce myself to a few different people that I haven't met yet. And again, this is all content for me. This is what I want to do. These are people I want to talk to for the show.
Yeah.
I have no interest in
your media. Really, you're the press.
Sure, why not? And so. So I have no, I'm not going anywhere with any devious plan to try to pretend like I'm something and get some, try to pretend to be a Republican and play around or whatever. I'm just there to check it out. And so apparently there's a line where bona fide voting Republicans could cross and people like me can't.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys do?
At the Knox County Democratic Party reorganization meeting, we have a section for what we call observers. So that
Okay.
would be people that are not there to vote,
Which would be right,
maybe
exactly
the
me.
press, media, or sometimes there are certain people that are Democrats, but they don't want to vote. Like sometimes elected officials don't want to vote because they don't want to pick one person over the other, things like that. So people that are not voting all sit in the same spot, which is it depends year to year where it is, but they're usually located
In the back where you can't see shit and all that kind of stuff. That's with me. I get it. That's okay. So that's normal. But so
yeah.
one of the things that they did is I didn't stop at the table at all because I didn't think I needed to. And they had a wristband system for who is and who isn't a voter.
Okay.
And so one of the attendants, one of the people working this event, comes over to me and they're like, where's your wristband? And I was like, I'm just here to watch the show. I don't want to vote or anything. She's like, well, you still need a wristband. We have a wristband for you as well, just to make sure, whatever. It's like, okay, cool. So I walk over to the table. That's my wristband.
All right.
And the wristband for the voting,
blue.
Right? And
for those that can't see it, it's a blue wristband.
Yes, thank you. I forgot we're doing an audio show, even though I do this all the time. So guess which color the voting group got?
Red.
Exactly. And so I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just they had red and blue and that's what they went with. And certainly they're not going to put blue on their people.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Interesting. Yeah, we don't have color coded wristbands.
But how do you keep people in the you're not allowed to vote section?
Well, we have like voter cards, and there's people that are assigned to the different districts. We vote entirely differently than they do. They used to vote the way that we do.
Right.
They vote differently now.
Yeah. Harry Brooks, as one of his items during his speech, was to bring back the precinct system that has been that has stopped being used for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know why they stopped using it, but I guess it didn't work out for Harry. So
yeah.
But yeah, how we vote is you go into your different precincts, and then you vote in your district, and then the district representatives bring the votes forward, and then that's how you tally the votes. So. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be in your district and in your precincts. Then you're with your neighbors.
Right. It kind of hammers down. I mean, and to me, that makes sense. And it kind of hammers down the subsections and trying to keep, people involved more specifically in their district and not have as much bleed over unless it's something specifically you want to. And that makes sense to me. And so, so that was the thing.
Maybe they have a bunch of blue wristbands left over. Maybe I should ask if we can have
them. I think they do. There was maybe 10 of us in the observer section. Okay. And there was one little kid running around the back of the room making noise the whole time. And so like all of it, like it was kind of funny because at one point
Seth in the daycare.
Yeah, that was it pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting to watch. Randy spoke.
What was some of the rhetoric that you heard?
Randy spoke for a while, and and I don't know if this was, again, I don't pay that much attention to the specifics of the party workings for either party, and so he made it a point of talking about some of the failings on his watch, like what lost District 2 in the county,
yep.
What it was 17 in the state. Was it I can't remember the number, but one of the House races, he made mention of.
Oh, Gloria Johnson's race was lost. Yeah, but I thought that was before he was chair. Maybe not.
And again,
well, they didn't win it back. Their goal was to win it back. They spent tens of thousands of dollars, and they didn't win it back.
So I kind of took that as like he was putting that challenge on. He's like, whether it was me or whether it was us or whatever, the royal we has to do better in the future moving on. I mean, honestly, like the biggest takeaway from it to me was that, they feel like the city races being nonpartisan is a disadvantage for them. And they are right now today, it starts now that we are going to push harder to do better in city races.
Okay. There are efforts by some state legislators to make municipal races partisan. It has stalled in the past, but we'll see what happens going forward.
Whose best interests are tended to by having it partisan or nonpartisan? That's the real question for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it would totally alter the framework and DNA of what those races are, really.
I'm not a city, so I've never voted in a city election, so I don't.
Well, the issue that the Republicans have too is that Joe Biden won like 63% of the vote in the city. So I welcome them coming and spending money and trying to run city council races, but
Right.
we'll see how successful they are.
Well, because I know one of the things that's different about city is that you only vote in your district for the primary, but when it gets to the general, you're voting citywide. Yeah,
Yep.
and so that's a big difference in that, for county comparison, I'm out here in District 8 in the county.
Mm-hmm.
I could have voted for Kyle Ward in the primary.
District 4. You're District 4.
Or sorry, District 8 is my nearest city line. Anyway, I'm trying. See, this is what sucks. This is what's confusing. Anyway, so yeah, I'm District 4. I got Kyle Ward, and he gets through the primary, and then we get to the general, and I can vote for Kyle Ward in my district, but I'm also voting for Courtney and Lundy, and
if the county elections were like the city elections,
right? That's what I'm saying, right? For my comparison, for what I have, if we did it that way, that's how it would work.
Yes,
which is interesting in and of itself. But I guess since you don't, it's not really a primary as much as it's a way to reduce the field for the general. I guess more than anything, right?
Yeah, any amount of people can run for the primary, and then the top 2 vote getters go to the general election, which is citywide, no matter which district you live in.
Right. Okay. So that makes sense. So it's not a primary per se, as it's like a pre-election to reduce the field for the general, and then
Correct.
The general opens up to the whole city, and your district gets to narrow your field.
That is the definition of a primary, though. So that's what a primary is.
I guess, but I'm just saying, like, it's not primary to me. Traditionally, when I see primaries, it's always trying to reduce down to which person gets to have that party on the ticket. And since it's a nonpartisan ticket, we're doing it differently. Anywho, so yeah, that was the big takeaway to me, is that they at least vocally have intent to put a lot more effort into getting city seats.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I went back and I checked my notes or whatever, and Burchett did make mention of I want to make sure I'm clear on this, because the way he said it was not that it's not his opinion. It was that it was in a national publication. Knoxville, Tennessee has openly Marxist city council members.
That's absolutely
ridiculous. I'm just saying that I don't know what the publication is, so I don't know how to fact check and verify where he got this said information.
Sounds like something Tim would say.
I thought that was an interesting thing, and Herrera definitely played on that in his portion of the speech. I don't get it.
But it sounds like they've moved on from calling us socialists to now calling us Marxists, which is, again, absolutely ludicrous, but that's their style and rhetoric. So,
right, and yeah, so I don't know where we go from here. I don't know what this means moving forward. I mean, I think it was a race of energy versus experience, and energy won. That's
what was the total? Do you know what the total ratio?
It was 2. I got it. I did get some notes on that from a friend. It was 260 something to 180 or something like that. It wasn't.
Wow. Okay, so it was pretty handedly.
63.2% of the vote. 240 to 140, give or take a handful.
63%. That's about the same amount that Joe Biden won the entire city of Knoxville with.
And what does that tell us?
I was just
not anything. I don't. And again, not having a history of being a part of this and seeing how it goes.
Do you know if the elected officials voted? Like, did Larson J vote? Tim Burchett vote? Did Kyle Ward vote? Or did they abstain?
I don't know. I know.
Eddie Manis, Becky Duncan Massey.
I know a couple of them were helping collect the ballots. So I would assume that as part of that job, they didn't vote as well, but I don't know.
Okay.
I did. We can pretend I'm media all we want, but I have a day job, and I was taking a break from my day job to be there, and that 2-hour mark got a little bit late for me to not be doing my day job, so I took a break.
Makes sense.
I took a break from being a fake journalist to being an actual employee, and went back to work. And so I made it through the speech portion, and when they went to voting, I hit the road because I had to. And apparently, and this might not be odd to you, but they voted on the chair, or the vote started on the chair, and everything stopped. So everybody votes, and they went and counted the votes, and then from my understanding of it, they went one at a time down. I think it was chair, vice chair, treasurer.
Do you know who won vice chair? Did Elaine Davis win vice chair?
She did, I believe.
Okay.
I can read you that list in its entirety. Davis, Janice Curie, Steve Weiner, and Rob Gray. And I believe the order was chair, vice chair, treasurer, vice treasurer, secretary.
Okay, gotcha.
I feel like I'm feeding an army notes from the other army, but it's all public. It'll all be public at some point.
Public knowledge. You were the first. I think you're the first one to break the story.
What?
You're the first one to break the story on the full slate of who the candidates are.
And again, okay. So here's the question to me: what does that mean to you? What does it mean to you? This list of 5. What does that mean? What does that mean for you?
It means that I should probably know who those people are. I, on a personal level, would like to meet Daniel. I haven't met him before.
We will do a new party chair show. Fear not.
Just because even though we are opponents, I do think it is healthy and good to know who your opponent is. Outside of that, I mean, doesn't change much for what we're doing. We're going to keep doing the same. We're going to keep focusing on the strategy that we have. We're going to keep contacting voters, and we're going to do our part to elect more Democrats in Knox County.
Okay. And again, so my point in asking you is that like you have more interest in who these people are than I do.
Yeah.
Because, like I've been making the joke all the time about an enemy, the other army, whatever. But these are people that you will be interacting with through the process of what you do.
Yes.
I will be interacting with them just because I'm a curious person. But at the end of the day, like I'm sitting here watching this thing, and it's like I don't care about any of what you guys are talking about right now.
Yeah, but who the officers of the party, they don't directly influence people that live in the community, but they indirectly influence it. I mean, they are proponents of certain policies. They recruit certain types of candidates. I mean, that's a big thing is the types of candidates that Harry would have recruited versus Daniel are very different.
I agree. And there's pros and cons to that both ways. I think, I think at least strategically, I think one of the biggest issues the Republican Party has is their age bracket, and it's just getting older. So
what was the age demographic of the meeting today?
It was all over the map. I mean, honestly, I was certainly not the youngest in the room and nowhere near the oldest. I mean, I was joking with somebody earlier, and I was like, there was, Herrera's only 28. What are you? Yeah. You're still in your 20s, right? Yeah. See, but traditionally, I guess generically, Longview, and I mean, you listened to the Brooks episode when I made the joke to Harry Brooks. I was like, it's the old white man party, and Herrera is not that, and so, I made the joke to the wife earlier. I was like, it was all white people, but it's Knox County. It's mostly white people anyway. So, I don't know if that says anything specifically. We can read into it what we want. It wasn't all white people, but for the most part. But then again, you probably know better than I do what the actual demographic of Knox County is. And then you put Republicans on top of that, which are less likely just statistically, it's whatever reason we want to put on that. Again, not the point. But I mean, you had, there was some guys that couldn't stand up straight because they were that old. And then there were some, obviously some 20, 25-year-olds, lower end of the voting bracket. So it was all over the place. I mean, again, Biggs and Ward were there. They're in their 30s. But then Burchett and Massey who are up there. And then, Herrera and that set. So, again, and I don't know what I'm comparing it to. I have nothing to compare it to other than this is the first time I've seen anything like it. But again, for as far as I can understand it, this is as big as they've ever had, at least in recent history. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad I went, more for the sake of the show than anything else, because I got at least 2 interviews out of the show, if not a third or fourth, of people I got to meet and talk to while I was there.
Well, our reorganization meeting will be in August, and we haven't set a specific date or location for it yet, but I'll let you know when it is. And you can come to ours, and you can. In
my obligation to fairness, I guess I have to come. And
ours will be very different than theirs is in a couple of different ways though.
And it'll probably be just as foreign and weird, and I'll sit there in the back of the room going,
I'll get you a very nice special seat. We'll reserve it. We'll reserve it for Seth Barber, Almost an Agreement Media location, and we provide snacks for the media as well too. So.
Well, I mean, I've never been to one of these before, and they may do snacks and stuff normally, but given the situation, they decided maybe snacks weren't appropriate. The mass count wasn't particularly high in this room. Not a big surprise, but there were no snacks. But there were no snacks for anybody, so I don't know what that means. I don't know. I mean, I would have probably hammered a donut or two if there was donuts there. I'm not gonna lie. Yep. It was 9:30 in the morning, standing around a room, but. I guess, like I said, it was interesting. I mean, is it, again, I look at this from who I am, who is not a strong party person, and so, the rhetoric and whatnot is, and maybe I have a little bit of advantage because I pay more attention and that I can hear the rhetoric and go, okay, whatever. It's one of those things. And I'm sure I can sit in your meeting and do the same thing at some level. You will have your version of the inverse of it. It may not be as aggressive or attackery and whatever, but we have our and I think it's important. And Randy made a good point during one of his parts. He said, "Is like we are diverse people in this room. We have different things that we want and we care about, but we can't have 5-6 different things that we are trying to blast out there. We need to We need to trim down the issues and make sure that we're solid on major issues and not have 15, 20 different things going on. Because A, that's infighting, which is going to happen when you have a bunch of different stuff going on and stuff like that. But B, it muddies the message and you can't really chase it down. And so whatever the one or two things you're going to focus on, you're going to talk about those in the way that the party talks about those. You'll do the same thing on your version of whatever the one or two major issues that you have at the meeting moving forward. These are our big issues this year. This is what we're going to work on. I have my lack of either one of your philosophies to sit back and go, okay, let's see what we're talking about here. Let's see who's more capable of A or B. I'm not super smart by any means, but I'm at least at a level where I could see that these are chess moves as much as they are real statements. And so it doesn't bother me as much. And maybe it should, because I'm trying to broadcast to people that aren't going to see it as a chess game like I do at this point, just out of practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I understand. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. And the fact of the matter is, though, for the Republicans, is that they're going in the opposite direction in Knox County. And it seems like they're doubling down on that right now, because Trumpism is not as popular as kind of traditional Mitt Romney style Republican conservatism in Knox County. And you can see that over just the last 8 years, there's been a 14-point shift towards Democrats. We flipped a state house seat, a county commission seat. And it seems to me like Daniel comes from the right-wing Trumpism section of the party. And that is just less and less popular, particularly in the suburbs where they're losing ground the fastest.
Well, okay, I'm not to disagree with you at all, but what does that mean? The right-wing Trumpism version of the party? Because if being loud and aggressive is that, then sure, I agree. But
well, I mean, in his while he was campaigning, he talked about standing with President Trump and. I mean, just kind of peruse through his social media. It's Trump this, Trump
I agree.
that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but we had this conversation on the show the other day. Is that, the question of what is the legacy of Donald Trump's presidency is that
they lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 4 years, and that hasn't happened since Herbert Hoover.
But did Trump provide a blueprint of how to win once?
Or he lost the popular vote twice, but barely win one time, but then to lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 4 years.
But again, that's and that goes along with what you're saying is that, in your opinion at least, the party is pushing further towards that, which they think there's a blueprint to win with, which there was barely one once, and then Because I think
Yeah, and it's not a pat. I mean, just embracing this kind of nationalistic right wing Trumpism agenda is not a path to a winning coalition. Uh, and you could see, I mean, Joe Biden won the election handedly. It wasn't close, really, when all the votes were counted. And the rhetoric of like the stolen election, the nationalistic rhetoric is just not popular, particularly in the suburbs, which is where increasingly where elections are won and lost, and particularly in Knox County too. I mean, look at the shifts that have happened in places like Sequoia Hills and other areas.
I don't know.
I mean, it's an experiment. They're experimenting to see if they can win going forward, and I welcome them to do that. But I do not believe that's the case, and I intend to make it not the case.
Right.
In Knox County.
Well, here's my take on it. At least is, and I believe I was talking to when I had Herrera in here. I was talking to him about it. Is like just in my experience in doing this, the local Democrats have been easier and more engaging with me, the show, and the show's social media than the majority of the Republicans have. I don't know what that means. I don't know why that is the way it is. That's just the reality of, what has happened in the year that we've been doing this show, or less than a year since we started really getting into the local politics side of the show. And so, the thing to me that sells about Herrera to me, which is why, at least for content's sake, for me, I'm excited about him winning. Is and Randy talked about it on his way out too. Is like there is a lack of, and this is, I guess, the real competition conversation for you. There is a lack of using the elements and platforms that are available to you now that the Republicans have not done well. Now,
Donald Trump uses social media pretty well.
You're right, but I'm trying to think.
Locally, the Republican Party has been totally absent from.
Right, that's what I'm getting at, is that they don't locally do very well. I mean, I don't know. After the first time Randy was here, I started following their Facebook page, and in 6 months, if there were a dozen posts, and a couple of them are videos of Randy talking, which I like Randy talking. Don't get me wrong, but Randy's really good. Like, I mean, there was at least two or three good Navy bits in what he was talking about in his 30 minutes today. There's always some Navy story that comes up or whatever. But as far as the engagement and what this younger generation and that are now voting age are used to, and how they interact and what they do and how they learn and understand the world that's around them, is through the social media. And while you're correct that Trump did it locally, they didn't.
I think you're right that, I mean, it's important to use the digital platforms that we have, but it's more than just using the platform. It's also the content that you have for the platform.
I agree.
And you could use the platform all you want, but if your content is not going to be attractive, then it could be detrimental to you.
Right.
And so we'll see what kind of
right.
agenda and content and rhetoric that the Knox County GOP has under Daniel. But if it is this right-wing Trumpism, that's not going to, I don't think that's going to play well, particularly in an increasingly diverse Knox County. And by diverse, I just mean diverse experiences, not just
right. I fully agree with what you're saying. And I think baseline,
so I don't know. It'll be an interesting experiment. So They had two routes to go and they went this route. So they're going to go this route. We'll see what happens.
Right. I like, because it would have been interesting to see, I don't know. It'd have been interesting to see somebody that was more traditional conservative or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. That is.
And Harry is by no means a rhino either. Some people called him a Republican in name only. Harry was a very conservative member of the state legislature.
Okay, but I'm just saying what I was getting at. I've heard the phrase too, and I don't know if I knew what rhino stood for until just now. But somebody who understands how to use social media that isn't as aggressive in rhetoric as Herrera seems to be. I haven't seen it yet. We'll see when he actually puts forth whatever structure he's going to do.
He's called us all socialists so far, so that's...
He has personally, but what he does personally versus what he does with the party's Facebook page is two different animals, and we don't know what he's going to do with the party page. That's what I'm getting at, is what he does with the party page is what it'll be what I think is going to be the most telling thing of what's going on. If the party page turns into, I mean, the thing to me that is an automatic failure in this conversation is if the local party turns into the us because of what they're doing. If that's the general theme of every issue, it's you got to pick us because of what they're doing. They're doing this thing, that's why you got to pick me. If that's the play, then I think it's a loss. Mm-hmm. But if they get in there,
because good political messaging is about what my platform is,
right?
What I'm going to do.
If they get in there and go Republican values on this issue, and why and how these things work in our version of it working, not me, but our Republican Party, whatever. And that messaging lands because people agree with it. That's a separate thing. And so that's what I'm waiting to see. Because again, I agree with you. At least
good political consultant, Seth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because
you're coming at it from someone who's just kind of been an average voter.
I'm the blue wristband guy that gets to go in this room.
Yeah, and you're coming at it from the blue wristbands, and I think you're right. I think a lot of people, particularly voters, want to know about what you're for rather than what you're against. And what I always tell our people is that it's okay and it's appropriate and it's right to attack our opponents on certain issues at times, but we always need to either offer a solution or we need to start the conversation talking about what we're for before we talk about what we're against. Right. Because that's good political messaging. But what you have with Trumpism is that you have that it's all about like an adversarial enemy making, identifying these people are socialists, these people are bad, these people are trying to steal your rights, or it's labeling the other. And really, not only do I think it's bad political messaging, perhaps maybe it's gainful in the short run to get people out to vote and get them riled up. But in the long run, I just think it totally poisons our democratic rhetoric, and that's small d democratic. And I think that the continuation of this continual adversarial nature that's just based on getting people riled up so they can get out to the polls is very detrimental to us as a society and to our holistic mental health.
I agree. And if we're going to, I wholly agree with you. And if we're going to be fair on it, your side is just as guilty. Maybe not just as, but as guilty as well.
Joe Biden's campaign was all about bringing people together in unity. I mean, it was, Joe Biden's campaign was totally not the rhetoric of Donald Trump.
And $2,000 checks on day one, bitches.
That's not what Joe Biden said.
But again, this is what I cannot rationalize.
The rhetoric of Sam McKenzie versus the rhetoric of Jason Zachary. That's a good microcosm on the local level.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at some stuff, but like
anyway, you were saying sorry.
I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Is that like I understand the premise that you are part of a party in campaigning and getting elected, and then once elected, your duty goes to the party. Not even that your duty was to the party in the first place, but your duty becomes to all the people. That's the way it's supposed to be. Is that you get elected to represent this set of people. Some of those people didn't vote for you. Some of those people voted for the other person, and you have to justify that in the process. But and I've asked you this question. I asked Harry. I asked Daniel. I asked Randy this question. I cannot, for the life of me, find a good example of an elected official from either party that is an example of what the party does.
And in the off quote unquote off year elections.
I mean, not even off year election, anything. I mean, Trump is not a goddamn Republican ever, and he sure shit didn't act like one ever. Yeah. But that's not unique to Trump. That's unique to, especially on the federal level. And maybe that's where I screw it up. But and maybe this is where I screw up trying to understand the system, because this is where, like, I had an epiphany the other day, and I knew this, and I've known this forever. But the epiphany was that there is a difference in politics and governance, and they work together, but they don't. And
I am not in the business of government. I'm in the business of politics.
right. And what I struggle with is that
Like Courtney and Dacia are in the business of governance. When they're during election time, then they're in the business of campaign politics.
right, but everybody knows that that's at least a stretch of a statement, if not fully false, because unless you are in lame duck year of whatever seat you have and can't run again, and don't intend to ever run again, you are always campaigning for the next election.
Yeah, but I think that's where there's not a stark line between politics and governance, because governance also means listening to your constituents, and your constituents are the people that are going to vote for you or not for you.
Right.
And that's where the politics comes in.
Well, but I mean, if
and then it comes about like building a winning coalition too. Maybe you decide, I can't make everybody happy, so I'm going to make this group and this group happy, and try and moderate this group or this group. And so it becomes about coalitions and constituencies and things like that. So it's not that there's not a line drawn right between governance and politics. They both do influence each other.
Right, because I mean, if politics wasn't part of governance, then what this COVID bill wouldn't
monarchy or something.
Well, no, I mean this COVID-19 bill that just went through or whatever wouldn't have been a 50-50 with the one tiebreaker. It would have been, I mean, like it's when something hits the floor or some issues up, especially on the federal level, when we're watching a bill go through, it's like this is going to the Senate, and this 45 is going to vote for, this 45 is going to vote against, and then these 10 other people are actually going to be the decision makers in the process, because these 45 on either side are voting by letter, not by
and the
product.
People that are in the middle, what states are they from? They're from states that are
right. Ohio's and are swing states. That's the word we're looking for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or it's someone like Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat, but from a very conservative state, and so he has to mitigate his constituencies, his voters and things like that. So, I mean, that's where politics influence governance and governance influences.
Right. And again, but I guess the reason I bring that up is that it's easy to forget that as a spectator who's not huge on the party part of it. Is that
particularly locally, because when you get on a national level, I mean, it's like politics all the time. But on a local level, I mean, the decisions that county commissioners make on a day-to-day basis, I doubt that they always have re-election in their mind. They're just trying to make the best decision about the
thing in front of them that they don't know anything about. Yeah, that thing.
About garbage or about whatever. So.
Right. And again, like I said, like to finish the thought process is that it could get really frustrating when you're watching the politics influence the governance, when it's like, there is no question that this is a good or a bad thing. That's not even the conversation we're having. It's a which party put it up, or what does this do for so-and-so's chances of re-election? What does this say about the party's thing in general? Which goes back to where I started with that, is that's the most frustrating thing to me, is that I don't know an example of a good pillar of the party Democrat or good pillar of the party Republican that is the example of this is how you are supposed to govern as this party member. Mm-hmm. And, Randy says it all the time. There's a difference in being a member of the Republican Party and being an elected official of the Republican Party. I don't fucking care. And that's what I struggle with it. It's like, I don't care. Why is the R next to your name if it doesn't mean anything once you're elected?
Well, I think all of our elected officials are good representations of Democrats. You've got, to go back to county commission, you've got Dacia and Courtney, who have stood up for the Board of Health, which has been part of their, and it's not, they don't do that because they're a Democrat. They do that because of their beliefs and their values, and they're a Democrat because of their beliefs and their values.
Okay, so all right, so just to play the game here, what is it? Okay, how do I ask this? Because again, I go to this thing, and I was talking to somebody else, and they made the joke about I have no desire to be in a room with a bunch of people without masks right now on a Saturday morning. I have better things to do on a Saturday morning than hang out with a bunch of people without masks.
Yeah.
How that came political is ridiculous. But to go back to your point, what about Lundy and Durrett and their personal beliefs / political beliefs says that the Board of Health is something that needs to be? That is a democratic value per se.
If I had to point to a democratic value, it would be governance is about maintaining the common good And during a pandemic right now, we need good public health policy to protect the common good. And so that means that we need to support the Board of Health because they are the professionals that are making the policies that seek the common good during a public health crisis. Now, I mean, I think the thing is that Democrats are just not afraid of the government.
Right.
Or in the sense that we're not afraid of the government being able to make policy.
You don't operate on the assumption that I do, that most of the time they're normal people like the rest of us, and they can fuck up just as bad as I can.
I believe that there are checks and balances in place that produce a competent governing authority locally, statewide, and federally.
So like while Joe Biden is talking about how important masks are and getting the vaccine out so no more people die from this stupid thing, he's bombing another foreign country again. That kind of thing.
I don't understand what you're getting at.
I don't either. I just wanted to make a Syria joke.
And that was a targeted strike in retaliation for aggression on U.S. military personnel, but we won't get into all that. And I don't know the specifics of it either.
Because that's what adults do. They don't fix a problem; they just punch back. And whatever, it doesn't matter. Neither party is good on war. It's fine.
So I have noticed recently in episodes you've been talking about what does the party do with candidates post-elections. I can tell you how we interact with candidates. I mean, I regularly communicate with our elected officials. I never lobby them to do things or tell them they should do this or that. It's mostly just to let them know that we're supporting them. And to help them with, like right now, we have our staff members that are assigned to help research on specific topics or issues for any of the elected officials that we have. And we have a few that are working on specific topics that need some research. And so the county and our county party and our staff is helping them to do that. We help to make sure that they are staying engaged with constituencies, so promoting them on our social media platforms, and then in direct voter contact too. I mean, we're trying to make sure that we contact voters so that they're ready for re-election as well. But yeah, I mean, we regularly communicate with our people, but not in the way that I cannot and would not and should not tell someone to do this or do that. And I don't really have the authority to do that, nor should I.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the conspiracy theory part of me, where it's like they all get in a dark room and you guys work out a plan.
In the group chat.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't do it in person. That's illegal, as if that really means anything, but whatever. That's what it says. But I don't know. You want to talk about sweeping rooms?
Sweeping rooms? I would know things.
I'm sorry.
Well, we should talk about our bet. We had a bet, right?
Sweeping the house. That's what I meant. We're sweeping the house. No, I mean, I won the bet. I mean, and you know, we
explain the bet. The people that are listening don't know about the bet.
We were both perfectly right in our conversation about it. We were talking about who we thought was going to win, the chair seat and why. And you know, you had chosen Mr. Brooks on the more traditional part of it and the fundraising capabilities, where I had chosen Mr.
And really, I thought Representative Brooks was the wiser choice, but
okay, and that's perfect because you have a logical reason and to go with it, and then I have the logical reason. And like I said in the beginning, it was an experience versus energy conversation. Brooks was
so I did lose the bet, and Seth won the bet. So
right, I took Herrera on energy.
Lose the bet. I need to publicly admit that I did lose the bet.
Okay, which goes at and which puts me at 2-0 so far with our challenges to each other. We won't say bet. The first one was a challenge that I accepted, which is, I don't know, maybe a terrible habit.
You haven't won that yet.
It's on the schedule. If he douches out on me, that's on him. That's not my fault. But yeah, that's in April some point. I don't know. I think it's right. I think it's the Monday after Easter. That's gonna be interesting.
I bet Seth that he could not get Sheriff Spangler to come on for an interview, but he has booked Sheriff Spangler for an interview. He's not yet come, but he does have a booking.
Right. So we'll see. The world could change between here and there. I'm sure there's some.
And you know, he has a primary opponent now, J.J. Jones, former sheriff.
Yeah. Who was prior. Which again, you know, it's one of those I've tried to understand the process and who does why and what authority lies.
That'd be interesting. I'm interested to see, how does the county party respond to that? Do they back the incumbent? or do they allow for a primary to happen? Do they? I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, typically political parties back their incumbents. In this situation, the incumbent is being opposed by someone who's also seems to be popular in the local party.
Yeah, I'd be curious. It is a curious point to say, and then it's like, was it that Jones didn't want to leave in the first place, and for some reason he stepped aside, and he's like, man, I shouldn't have done that. I should have kept the
term
job.
limited. He was term limited. So
how can you run it? So it's only consecutive terms?
Yeah, you can only have 2 consecutive terms, but you're not limited to 2 terms.
Ah, interesting. That's a fun.
So that's bored in retirement.
That's a fun little rule. You know, I don't know. And what is the particular policy that he wants that Spangler's doing that he doesn't like or isn't doing?
Yeah, I think there's a personal beef between them. I think it's less policy.
That's fun. I like personal beefs.
Ask him about that.
That's when the real dirt comes out, and it's like, fuck that guy. He's a fucking dick. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, it goes to that one of those. It's like that is a weird. It's a weird little ism that we have in the way the government works, and that is a, like the school board, a wholly separating operating body inside the county that answers to nobody in the county.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is an interesting conversation that I've been thinking about recently.
Hold on, before we come off sheriff, and hold that thought. Before we come off sheriff, though, are you guys? Is the Democratic Party going to put somebody up?
We are planning that, and we have some candidates that we're trying to recruit right now. That's all I can say.
Okay, that's what I was checking. Like I realized that we just went through that, and basically we have a primary and no opposition yet. Check, heard that.
We have some very experienced law enforcement officers who are Democrats locally, so we're talking to them about it right now.
Okay, so anyway, I apologize. You were going on with a new thought.
Yeah, so something I've been thinking about recently is that in Knox County, you've got you've got 3 mayors. 3 mayors. So you've got the City of Knoxville mayor, you got Knox County mayor, and then you got the mayor of Farragut, which everyone always forgets about, but Farragut does have an elected mayor.
Okay.
Maybe I think Clinton used to have a mayor. I'm not sure. But basically, the county mayor and the city mayor oversees the police department, oversees public safety, oversees the fire department, the emergency services, oversees public works, oversees all of the inner workings of the government. The county mayor doesn't have to oversee law enforcement, doesn't oversee the sheriff, doesn't oversee trash pickup or anything, doesn't oversee emergency services, that's rural metro and things like that, doesn't oversee the register of deeds, doesn't oversee the trustees, doesn't oversee the people that collect the taxes. I think being the county mayor is a breeze. Being the city mayor is like a hard working job because it's actually day-to-day stuff. The county mayor, you just kind of go around and take pictures and cut ribbons.
I suppose, but the difference being that all those people you listed that the mayor doesn't oversee are elected versus appointed.
Yes.
So theoretically, if we were a better, more engaged community, we are the ones that are overseeing the register of deeds, the clerk,
the property assessor.
Right.
I mean, in a philosophical sense, I guess we are. But I'm just saying from a purely administrative, executive perspective, it is the city mayor is a much more difficult job than the county mayor. The county mayor gets paid more than the city mayor, which I think the city mayor should make more.
Perhaps I don't know about that part of it, but at the same time, I if you don't have the authority to move a particular person on a particular issue because they're elected and you're elected separately versus this is an appointee that you put in, that's a different. I mean. I don't know, but for the sake of conversation, if I'm Jacobs and I'm trying to get the register of deeds because I'm trying to work on the certain thing that involves the register of deeds,
see, that's the thing though. What is on a day-to-day basis? What are the important partisan policies of the register of deeds is overseeing?
I don't know, but I'm just saying, whatever the city's version of the same thing is, that office is underneath the mayor versus semi-level to the mayor. Where I guess the example.
I mean, the big thing is for me, it's comes down to the law enforcement because there's no one overseeing the sheriff.
I agree with you on that one. That one's
nobody that oversees the sheriff. The sheriff can do whatever the sheriff wants,
right.
And the county commission even is limited on what they can do for the sheriff.
Right, right. It's really a budgetary. We legislate through the checkbook. I think is what the the cool kids say. Yeah, so I don't know, but I guess I could see it both ways, to be fair. Like, I could see the advantage of, especially for the person who is mayor of the two different governing bodies, the advantage of having everybody on the list is essentially directly under you, and their job depends on you, and they can come and go as you please, not as they please, where having all these different elected bodies, you don't have as much.
Well, that's the philosophical political conversation around the law director.
Right. That's
Glenn
yeah.
Jacobs
Yeah.
wants
Exactly.
to be able to
Right.
hire and fire the law director
Because
and
he
the law
wants
director is
right.
elected.
Because he wants one that'll work for him. Where
Yeah. And
who
so in
is
the city, the law director works for the mayor.
Right.
And I guess technically they're appointed, but usually it's just kind of a civil service job. Like the person who's done it now has done it for a while.
right. But if Miss Kincannon really has an issue, she has the authority to squeeze a little bit more than Jacobs does in the same capacity.
Yeah, there may be civil service requirements about what you can and can't do for public servants in the city. I'm not sure.
I'm just saying. I mean, just to try to explore both sides of that. I get it. I get it both ways. I guess what I'm saying.
But I was thinking about this though, because I was thinking about the sheriff's office, because there needs to be some sort of advisory board that oversees the sheriff's office.
I agree with that.
Because over the last couple of years, we've seen there's been multiple situations where scandals, and what I would say are scandals, whether he was part of it or just kind of it happened on his watch, and really he answers to nobody unless a newspaper happens to pick it up.
Right.
Like the fact that the inmates were washing a officer's car.
What else are they doing?
It shouldn't be washing a private officer's car. They're using prison labor for that. But anyway, my big point is
are they getting commissary funds?
Nobody oversees the sheriff.
Do they get a pack of cigarettes for their work? Probably not a pack of cigarettes. They're not allowed to smoke there, but that's the joke.
Anyway, it was ridiculous that happened, and the city mayor oversees the police chief.
Right. On this particular one, I 100% am on board with you. I don't like the idea that nobody in county has any day-to-day interactive control over what the sheriff's doing. I agree with you 100% on that. I think that is a weird situation that we have a commission and we have a mayor, and I can go to my commissioner and I can go to Mayor Jacobs and I can go to Spangler and I can be like, this is a problem. The sheriff's office is out of control with whatever this issue is, and Spangler's the only one that can actually do anything about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have there's no other people that can step in and be like, hold on, okay, I see what this guy's saying here. This might be something we need to do something about. Mm-hmm. No, too late. It's the sheriff. He does what he wants.
Yeah.
And again, as I'm congealing my metro idea, that's, to me, I like the Davidson County model. I think it's the sheriff there is
the sheriff just oversees
serves warrants and runs the prison. And that's all he does is serves papers and runs the prison. That's all the sheriff's office does there. And then there is Metro.
Talk about a breeze of a job.
Yeah, but the Metro PD or whatever that is Nashville's police department does the day-to-day and puts the day-to-day law enforcement in, and then the mayor's office and all that kind of stuff gets to oversee it, like we were talking about here. I agree with you 100% on that. I think as I'm working out the different tens of thousands of pieces of my Metro plan, that's where I'm at on that one. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that's a problem. I mean, I just think that's weird that the sheriff has nothing except, the county can be like, nah, you can't buy that thing, but only if that thing's expensive. Like somebody should have said, hey, that new decal is a bad idea. I mean, it's just a bad idea.
Yeah, I agree.
And you guys like it, and that's cool that you like it, and I appreciate that you like it, but it's a bad idea. Forget the money part of it. It's just it's terrible optics.
Yeah, it is terrible, but nobody can do anything about it.
Right. And so to me, that's just sheriff going, hey, look what I can do.
Yeah, he does it a lot. He does. Anyway, I won't get into
that. I know. I have to remind myself that I'm broadcasting and everybody's going to hear this, and maybe accidentally the sheriff's office might, and then I got to deal with it. But I don't know. I got a big argument on the Facebook about this HB3. You want to talk about that? Or you want to leave that one alone? That one gets pretty messy.
On which one?
HB3 state level.
We can. Which one? Wait, hold on. Which one was that again? Was it HB7? HB3? Which one is HB3 again?
3 was the K through 12 sports conversation.
HB3. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about HB7. Yeah, I mean
Well, forget it.
it's a solution. It's a solution looking for a problem. That's just not a problem in the state of Tennessee.
I was talking to my now sister, previously brother-in-law, about it today actually, and the premise of how few people I asked the question. I was like, is there not a part of the process where this is a how many people does this affect conversation? There's no process where we say there's 7 people in the state that this might apply to.
It's a solution looking for a problem. It's you already have people that transgender people are already at a higher risk of suicide, particularly younger people, and this just isolates them and places more of a just burden on them. Not even if they're athletes, just the fact that them existing as they do. And also, like I said, it's a solution looking for a problem. And whenever the Republicans are in trouble, they just automatically default to culture wars to distract from it. So we've had a terrible vaccine rollout in the state. We've done terrible with COVID in the state. And so now to distract it, they need to get people riled up. So they're going to pick on the T in LGBT.
Right. And I will admit that I've fell victim to the riling. I still think there is a conversation to be had about how to deal with certain activities. I do think there is a fairness aspect that is worth talking about. But
there are bigger issues in the state of Tennessee than to deal with this particular minute.
These 7 people that at the end of the day, it doesn't really make a fucking difference. So what are we fighting about? I agree with you on that. And to me,
anyway, that's what I think. I thought you were talking about HB7, which is the Board of Health bill, which did go through the committee.
And what will that do?
That is where, well, I think they changed it too. I was reading about it the other day. So that's Jason Zachary's bill that was in response to the Board of Health. So the governor declared that decisions would be made locally because Republicans like it when decisions are made locally until they don't. And so they didn't like this decision being made locally, the Board of Health having policy or having emergency public health powers. And so now this makes it default to the mayor. So basically,
which would still be locally, but whatever.
Yeah, but I think the listener should fact check me because I think that Zachary changed it at the last minute. So now it defaults to the public health officer, which is Dr. Buchanan. So it's I
thought that's how it was anyway.
The resolution is anyway. Right. Yeah.
I mean, and again, I think one of the big things to be, we talked about this. We did a full crew show earlier today, and we were talking about this a little bit. Is I think there needs to be on this particular issue, there needs to be a very clear definition of emergency, and if it's emergency powers, then it needs to be under an actual emergency that has real definitions.
Whenever someone says emergency powers, I always think of Star Wars
or Spaceballs, but and so, because one of the problems to me is that, as I understand it currently, at least, it's not an emergency power the Board of Health has. It is an all-the-time power. It's just, it makes sense to assert this power during an emergency, as I understand it. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'm not.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We've been in a state of emergency.
I thought that it was the governor said that the local powers that be in his executive order were going to be the ones that make policy. But again, could be wrong. Someone should look it up. I'm not an attorney.
In my conversations about it, my understanding, which could be wrong, I'm not an attorney, has been that it is an all the time. This is normal Board of Health capability. It doesn't have to do with the fact that we're in a state of emergency.
I don't know.
That's my understanding of it. I could be wrong.
I thought it was emergency granted by the governor's executive order. But anyway, good news is we've got vaccines that are coming out. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, and I am on the last of the list.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
You should sign up for if you go online, I'll send you the link. You can sign up, and your listeners should do this too. If you're not in the criteria yet to get it, You can sign up to be on a list for local clinics that when they have no shows, they have like 3 or 4 shots at the end of the night and they need to use them. So they'll contact the people on this list and you can come get it. So my brother-in-law got it because of that.
I can appreciate some efficiency there and not wasting. I like that.
Mm-hmm. When they first started it, though, I was reading an article from a couple months ago in Nashville that they had some no-shows at the Davidson County Health Department. And so there was a subway right beside the health department. So they just walked in the subway with the vaccine and said, hey, we've got some extra vaccines. Anybody need it? So a couple guys eating the sandwich in Subway got it.
Yeah, I heard a story about, it wasn't here, it wasn't local, but I think it was in Colorado or something like that. There was a significant snowstorm, and apparently there was some nurses or whatever that had picked up an order from their local health department and were on their way back to their little township or whatever, and got stuck on the interstate in the snow in a blizzard or whatever, and got out and were just vaccinating everybody that was stuck in traffic with them because it wasn't going to last. It was snowing, but not.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, there is a website. I'll send it to you where you can.
I'll put that in the show notes if people want it. They can sign up for it there. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird position to be in as a human being, to sit there and look at the list and how you break down on the list and where you sit on it, and think to yourself that, you know, I understand parts and pieces of it. I get it. I understand the 75, 70, 65 plus front end people with, significant comorbidities and issues that could make it harder and worse.
This cycle too is people that are pregnant and then they're members of their household of people that are pregnant.
Well, fortunately, I am not pregnant, nor is my wife. But again, it's weird. It's weird to think that there are people at play that get to pick how important I am on the list. And I'm very unimportant on the list.
What about with your job? Wouldn't you be considered a frontline worker at a certain point?
I don't know. As far as I understand it is, I get it when the prisoners get it.
I thought that you would have been, because of your day job, you would be moved up. I don't know. I'll look into it for you.
Anyway,
good news. We've got 3 vaccines out now. We're vaccinating over 2 million people a day. It looks like we're going to have all that, or President Biden has said that there will be enough vaccine for everybody by May. So I think we're going to have a fun summer. It'll be like,
it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, this is going to be the best summer ever. We need to have a big party that's safe still. I mean, there's lots of variables that are happening, but
gonna buy me a couple of pontoon boats and rent them bitches out. It's going to be party time. Lots of party. And I whatever it takes, man. I'm ready. I'm ready to move on and argue.
I miss going to the movies.
Really? I hadn't gone to movies, and last movie I saw was Endgame, and I regret doing that. In the theater. That's too much movie to sit in the theater.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't pause for a piss, and there's no way you're getting through that thing without a piss. It's just it's just the truth. It's not being hateful, but
you don't wear a diaper.
Yeah, I mean, and there's Marvel fans out there, I apologize, but there's a lot of that movie they could have done without. There's a lot of there's
Is
probably
that the one that's 2 parts.
I guess I don't know. Yeah, it was 2 parts.
Marvel. Yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm not a big Marvel fan, but I went with my friend to the movies to see the first part, but I didn't know that it was 2 parts.
But they were released like a year and a half apart, so it was really 2 separate movies.
And so I was sitting there thinking, like, when are they going to wrap this thing up? Oh my goodness! And then like this story keeps going on, and we've been here for 2 hours, and they're still doing this. When are they going to wrap it up? And then it ended, and I was like, what the heck? But then he told me this is first part.
There's no wrap up. Yeah. Yeah, that's the good serial stories like that. Each individual movie needs to stand alone. Yeah. If you can't get the movie to stand alone, to be part of the series, then you fail.
You can have 2 movies, you make double the money.
Yeah, but if you can't, I don't know. There's only so many times you can do that when people are just gonna be like, "Fuck you, I'm not watching. I'm not watching it. Or at least I'm waiting till the theaters." And I'm curious. I'm very curious to see how movie theaters respond and come back from this.
Yeah, well, that's important locally because of Regal. I mean, Regal is a huge employer in Knoxville, and I know people that used to work at Regal that don't work at Regal now, and I hope that they survive because they had that building down there because that was in part of partnership with the city. So I hope that they will continue, and I think they will. It just depends on
I mean, there's a lot of stuff at play because there's been the big fight with HBO Max and Hulu's done a couple and Amazon's gotten a couple, and if you're a major studio producer, I don't know that you go back to exclusively going to movie theaters.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, I think it could totally change. I'm speaking for myself. I think there's kind of some nostalgic nature of going to the movies and getting popcorn, but it's also expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have kids, so if you take kids and a whole family, that's a lot of money to go.
Yeah, it is, and depending on the movie, I think that's one of the big things. I think certain movies, it makes sense. There's more experience to do it in the theater when you've got the gajillion watt sound system and the 40-foot screen, and if it's a 3D movie, you get the 3D glasses and do all that kind of thing. And there is some joy in being in a room with other people watching it, where
especially if it's something you've been waiting on for a long time.
Right, and like something happens and there's an audible gasp or whatever from the room, or there's a good punchline lands in a joke and everybody goes ha ha together. There's something different about a joke on TV.
It made me teary eyed. It makes me want to go back.
There is. I mean, there just is. There's something different about it. It's like, I've watched a gajillion concerts on that these different bands and musicians are trying to do virtually, and it's just not the same as being live in person at a concert, stuck shoulder to shoulder with people.
It does make you wonder, what will a post-COVID economy look like? Because I think one of the big things is a lot of people work from home now that didn't work from home before. And I wonder if more companies realize that they don't need brick and mortar locations, or at least don't need people to be in the office all the time.
Right.
I think that will be a bigger movement as working from home or remote work.
Right. And I've read some economists that have gone both ways on it. Like I read a guy that was like, don't assume that the office isn't coming back because of this and stuff like that. And I tend to lean. I don't know. I don't have an office job, so I don't know. But I tend to lean towards, the traditional concern and why you don't let people work from home, even though the capabilities there, is that they're not going to be as productive. And what we're seeing is that they're as productive, if not more, because they sit down, they get their work done, and they go about their business instead of spending 20 minutes at the water cooler and doing this and doing that and finding ways to waste time at work to get the day done, instead of just getting the work done. And that's, because I don't know, like Sam on the show, he's a big, Scandinavian fan of some of the stuff they do over there, and like some of the European models of stuff. And it's like, I'd like to see a 4-day work week be normal. I'd like to see, in less, I mean, I understand certain.
We have a 40-hour work week thanks to Democrats.
Certain,
Speed 60.
Just certain things getting into place where, I mean, I understand certain jobs are hourly jobs and it doesn't matter. It's going to take however long it takes. But, trying to figure out ways to do things that if it doesn't take that long, to not make it take that long. It's one of the issues I have with my day job. My day job is, it's here's a list of things, get it done. Yeah. But they make me an hourly employee. Mm-hmm. So I'm not incentivized to do efficient work. I'm incentivized to, the quality of my work is consistent whether I take an hour or 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So what does an hourly job incentivize me to do? Be lazy and slow. And I could be done. I could be home with my kids. I could be doing another podcast in the afternoon instead of spending 2 more hours doing nothing just to make sure I fill out my schedule so I get paid. And but again, it gets into complicated stuff. Can we go one of the issues we've had, and what really screwed me, it started as an Obama bill. Trump finished it off. No, I was a salaried employee. And there were rules about rules. Obama wrote the rules and Trump clarified the rules or put into play. I don't remember exactly how it worked out. But it officially came in under Trump, which basically said, if you make less than X a year, you cannot be on salary. And it's like, well, I make
rules because they don't want to make people work overtime. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right. And so, and I acknowledge that I'm probably on a short list of people for this, that I'm a short list of people that are on the inverse of the situation, but essentially it made me go from a 25, 30-hour work week to a 40-hour work week for the same money. Yeah. And so it's like,
and that regulation was really designed not for people like you,
but right. It was designed for people that they were working 60,
like assistant manager at McDonald's or Wendy's or something that makes $28,000 a year, but they make them work 50 hours a week or
Right.
something.
I worked for Cookout for a while, and they had a little scheme where, and this was before this went into place, but I think even after they went into place, they had a little scheme that they figured out how to do it where you got your salary for 40 hours, and then you got $10 an hour passed. And it's like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. If they're going to work me 60 hours a week, I make more money. And then you start thinking about it. It's like, well, even on the minimum wage employees we have, they cost more to be in overtime than I do.
Yeah.
So basically, they're using me to cover overtime because my overtime is cheaper than a minimum wage employee.
Yeah, true.
Feeling good about myself.
Did you work at Cookout in Fort Sanders?
Yep.
Okay.
At some point in the year, not quite 2 years, I worked there. I was in everyone that was in the region at the time. So, worked at the King Spike store, worked at the campus store, and I worked at the Merville store.
Merville. You know, they're from Greensboro, North Carolina, which is close to where I'm from.
I am aware. And apparently it was my district manager who was the piece of shit. It's not necessarily the company as a whole. So to be fair, I'm not disparaging Cookout as a whole in their
By the way, this podcast is brought to you by Cookout on Fort Sanders.
They don't advertise, so no, it's not. By rule, in my experience, and they told me other than billboards, they do not advertise. That is their rule.
Oh, did you ask them already?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I didn't know. I didn't ask them about this. I asked when I worked there because it was like, you know, that first couple months where I thought I gave a shit about the job and wanted to try and do well. I was like, do we have a social media page? No, we do nothing but billboards. It's like, you don't do grand openings? You know, like I went and opened the Maryville store when it opened. It's like, I
mean, I don't know much about marketing and stuff, but from political marketing, billboards are a waste of money.
Yeah, I agree too, in my experience personally as well. But you know, I said to them, I was like, you know, what are we doing for a grand opening? And they're like, what are you talking about? It's like a grand opening, like, you know, ads in the mailers, whatever we got to do to let everybody know that we're here now and we're open. Everybody's seeing us getting built. Well, now we're open. They need to know that. And like, no, we'll just open the doors. It's like, that's it. That's it. You know, like no social media, nothing. That was the way they did it. And so, which is weird because they're essentially a knockoff Wendy's. They came from Wendy's. The guys that own it were Wendy's franchise owners for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I like Cookout way better than Wendy's.
Yeah. And so they apparently they got pissed off at corporate Wendy's, sold most of their franchises and started their Cookout as a fuck you to Wendy's. And so they stole a bunch of stuff. They use a bunch of the stuff that in similar ways to the way Wendy's does stuff. And Wendy's has probably some of the best Twitter on the internet.
Yeah, they do. They're very good.
All right, you said you got to go. You got other stuff to do. Send me that link. I'll put it in the show notes here in a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I found it actually. I found it. So it is. Oh crap! I just deleted it.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat my last sentence. Send me that link, and I will put it in the show notes for everybody if you want to sign up for the Let's Not Waste Any Vaccines list.
Vaccinefinder.org. For everyone that is not in the first in 1C phase opening up in Tennessee on Monday, or if you're in another state, this is how you can try and get on a vaccine wait list. Go to vaccinefinder.org, find pharmacies close to you because you'll probably have to get there quickly if they call you, and start calling them and asking if they have a wait list for people locally that want to get a vaccine. So you gotta be ready to go. Like they gotta call you. You gotta be there in 10 minutes.
All right, there you go, people. If you are interested in that, I will again request that you send me the link so I can add it to the show notes because I already forgot.
Vaccinefinder.org.
Matt Shears, everybody. He is the chair of the Knox County Democratic Party. Any last words?
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to meeting Daniel sometime, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of years in Knox County politics.
All right, I will do. I will do my due diligence, and we'll give it a little time. I'm going on vacation. I'm taking spring break out, so
nice. Have fun.
Sometime after spring break, we'll try to figure out when we can have a new party chair battle. So, Matt Shears, everybody. You can talk through the outro too if you want. You got anything cool? No, it's my job.
Yeah, well, my neighbor's house caught on fire tonight.
So you heard it here, everybody. Matt Shears caught his neighbor's house on fire.
No. Well, his front porch caught on fire. That's all.
I'm sorry. Matt Shears caught his front neighbor's porch on fire because they're not friendly. We're almost in agreement. Almostinagreement@gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our website's live. Almostinagreement.com. It's up and it's running. Go check it out. All the episodes are up there. I'm working on the backlog right now. But at least the current episodes are all up and on there. You can get contact information, learn more about us from there. We do have a sponsor that sponsors the website, that is eBay Lounge. Anyway, check eBay Lounge out, eBayLoungeKnox.com. Like I said, I've got a big Monday coming up. I've got Lundy, Massey, and the baseball crew coming in, and we're going to talk baseball, among other things, on Monday. And we'll try to squeeze a couple more shows in before vacation. But other than that, that's what I got on deck. Big thanks to Matt Shears, everybody. I can't wait for that party chair battle. It's gonna be epic. Hopefully I'll have my new camera then so we can see all the blood. Good night, everybody.